Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wojciech Stańczyk. I represent KAPE, the National Energy Conservation Agency from Poland. We were one of the enablers partners in the project, and as Simona said, I would like to present you some scenarios that will focus more on the policy side, not on the technical and knowledge sharing like the previous, but more on the policy side. So, where do we start? We had like two main goals. Share the knowledge of the successful ways of fostering, so we wanted to target the partners that want to find out how to efficiently, in the best way, share the fostering of energy efficiency measures. And also we wanted to provide support to the policymakers. So therefore, we analyzed the previous data and conducted some final recommendations. So, how do we start? How do we want to achieve our goals? Firstly, we analyzed the historical data. So, all this data that we gathered was used to develop how different supporting schemes, supporting mechanisms, policies enable these energy efficiency projects to be implemented. We also analyzed the national and local conditions, because of course the policy itself doesn't appear anywhere. It has to be somewhere in the country, so the national conditions are very important and they influence the results. And also we analyzed the general features of the schemes. So the effect of the policy in different sectors will be different. So it will support some industry sectors better and some industry sectors worse. So we wanted to find out which features of the industry influence the results. So through this, we provided some recommendations and also found some barriers, because you have to look from two sides. We have to look from the good sides and from the bad sides of each of these fields. Okay, so firstly we have to define what we analyzed, and we analyzed 5 sectors, not all of those sectors that were included earlier, but we focused on the most energy intensive sectors and therefore significant to the industry. So we chose food and beverage sector, chemical sector, coke and petroleum sector, iron and steel sector, and pulp and paper sector. These are also very different in terms of how the policies affected them. So we will easily see the difference between sectors even in the same policy measure. And we analyzed also, of course, this is the base of the analysis, 5 schemes from 4 countries, as were already mentioned from the enablers countries. And these were the KPC and the Klimaaktiv from Austria, the White Certificate Mechanism from Italy and from Poland, and from Carbon Trust from the UK, the Energy Efficiency Advice Program. These programs have a different approach of achieving the energy efficiency, so this will be also the influenced in the effect shown further. Also, as you can see, there are years for which we analyzed these schemes. So, for example, for Poland there were only 5 years, and for Italy the period is much longer. So we have a different scope of the analysis on each and every scheme. And this also influenced the outcomes and the recommendations. So the methodology, how did we analyze those schemes? First, we wanted to conduct the quantitative analysis, so have strong numbers on how the policy affected each sector, and they relate to different parts of the energy efficiency. So energy, there are also financial KPIs, and there are also environmental related KPIs. And through this we conducted some numbers that enable us to validate how the scheme worked in each sector in each country. But of course this is not enough. We wanted to do more. We wanted to evaluate, because the numbers themselves doesn't show the whole picture. And we wanted to evaluate those numbers and show the recommendations that come from those numbers. So even if some project received lower numbers, maybe this is because of the crisis or something like this. So maybe some other factors influence the result. So the quantitative number is not strictly related to say it's a better scheme, but we want to analyze further how those schemes achieve those energy savings. Okay, so after conducting the quantitative analysis, these are the results that we arrived at. So these are the factual results, so you can check each scheme. As you can see, in every sector, a different scheme was the best, let's say. So as we can see, different energy efficiency schemes and policies affect different sectors in a different way. So here you can see how it appeared per sector, and of course we also try to find the national barriers and the national differences. So we also somehow evaluated it on the national basis. So in each country we ranked those sectors and try to arrive at conclusions why this situation happened. So these were the quantitative and now the qualitative analysis results, because this is the core from what we can gain from the project. So everyone that wants to implement the scheme, that wants the scheme to target some sectors, can get the most information not from the quantitative but from the qualitative analysis and find out how and why this happens. So for food and beverage sector, I will go through all those 5 sectors and we'll show you the main results, and all of this of course can be found in the deliverable that will be available at our website, but to go shortly through the main conclusions, I will go through each sector. So the food and beverage sector in general responds well to the supporting mechanism, as you can maybe find out through the numbers of projects that we gathered in our database. It was the highest number, and also through our analysis, the average, let's say, KPI ranking was also one of the highest. So this sector is well targeted by a range of different supporting schemes, and it has high potential in common technologies. So there are many subsectors in food and beverage sector, but the technologies can spread through different sectors, and there's a great potential in very common, well-known technologies. So the industry companies can learn from each other how to implement them, and of course there's a high potential in small and medium enterprises, because for food and beverage sector, the small and medium enterprises are a great part of in almost every country. So they also show high potential for energy efficiency. So what are the conclusions for this sector? Basically, if you want to target the small and medium enterprises, we want to simplify the mechanism, because the big problem for small and medium enterprises is that if the mechanism is too difficult to participate in, too much bureaucracy and so on, they won't simply use it, because they don't have that much staff to work on it. Also, the training and knowledge supporting programs are very effective for the food and beverage sector, because of the high potential in common measures. So if we share knowledge, if we provide information like collected through the Mercy, we can very well target the food and beverage sector, because they use very common measures, and there's a very high potential in those technologies. Also, in the food and beverage sector, there's high potential for renewable energy technologies. So this should also be taken into consideration when creating the policy for the food and beverage sector. The second sector I want to talk about is the pulp and paper sector. It also responds well to the supporting mechanisms. I think the average quantitative analysis result was the highest for pulp and paper sector, but the situation in it is very different, because in each country the structure, the domination of large or medium enterprises is different. So So here is not like in the food beverage sector where the small and medium enterprises were usually a very high percent in the market. Here it's different. It depends on the country. But one very strange thing and very important to notice is that the NACE code sector 17.1, which is the basic paper production and paperboard, has high potential in common technologies, in process-related technologies, than in common technologies. So if we want to target the first let's say NACE code, the first branch of the pulp and paper sector, we have to focus on the process-related technologies. And if you want to affect the second branch, which is which feeds on the products made from the first branch, which is the basic pulp and paper production, this branch has vast higher opportunities in common measures. So here it's as you can see on the chart I presented, very specific difference, and a different way to search for the energy efficiency potential. And of course, due to the types of technologies, temperatures taken in these processes, the cost of implementing, for example, in comparison to iron and steel industry, where the cost is very high, the temperature is very high, and the technology is very complex. Here, the cost of implementing the technologies is relatively lower than in other sectors. For example, like iron and steel. So, to what conclusions does it bring us? You have to, if you want to implement the energy efficiency policy, you have to firstly examine the situation in the country, because the situation varies from different perspectives, and then unify the approach that you want to come out at. The subsidized and program and non-sharing schemes, so these that target the generic, more generic energy efficiency measures will work better in the first sector, and where certificates, energy obligation schemes, so those schemes that target more the specific industrial changes, the process related, as we call them, will target more the 70.2. And you have to firstly examine the potential and the energy consumption in those two branches, and then maybe adapt the scheme that you want to propose. Okay, for the chemical sector, the response to the energy efficiency schemes and policies was moderate, let's say. So in between all those 5 sectors, more or less. But the thing that we noticed in this branch is that the one sub-branch, so the basic chemicals production, the 20.1 NACE code, dominated the results. So the most potential, the most energy efficiency measures happened in those branches. And most probably you have to focus on this branch to achieve the highest energy efficiency potential. The production processes are very complex, so like there are many sub-branches, there are many different it's hard to unify the production process on separate phases, because each production process, each chemical differs from each other, so it's hard to, let's say, unify the approach all over the sector, because each company is different and the measures are more complex, so harder to help. And the potential in very process-specific measure is the highest. So if you want to achieve the highest energy efficiency results, you can't focus only on generic measures, on knowledge sharing schemes, on basic measures, but you have to go more in detail in the process-related measures. So the conclusions are to focus on the medium and large enterprises, and to focus on the process-specific measures. So usually the energy efficiency obligation schemes and more general schemes, like waste certificates, support those larger enterprises and those process-related measures better. coke and petroleum sector, this sector is very specific. It's very different from the other, as we have much small number of companies, but they generate the energy consumption that is relatively comparable to the others. So here's a very good potential for energy savings. However, usually the schemes doesn't support this sector very well. So it's hard to stimulate this sector because it usually doesn't take part in the schemes that we analyzed. So all those 5 schemes, only few measures were implemented in the coke and petroleum sector. And of course, we call it the coke and petroleum sector, but for most countries it's the petroleum sector. I think only for Italy and Poland there were some companies in the coke sector. And the fuel consumption of this sector is related to the byproducts of this sector. So usually during the production phase, the byproduct is also a fuel used in this sector. Therefore, this fuel will be used anyway, will be produced anyway, and the use of it is not that expensive for the company, so they prefer to do it, and therefore the savings in such measures won't be financially beneficial, because for the company they would have to consume this fuel anyway. So the conclusions that we arrived is maybe the good way is to focus directly. Some of the companies are, as there are only few in the sector, for example, four companies in Austria in general, one large company in Austria. So maybe if you direct the scheme on the companies, or try to, for example, approach the companies directly, the result will be better. And of course, because of the competition on the sector, maybe and the small amount of the companies, maybe if we present results, it's better to somehow not show the full results or the full knowledge, because it will discourage the companies to take part in the scheme, because they don't want to show their knowledge to the competition. And if the competition is very hard, it's like one company that you can easily identify through the scheme, it's better to maybe limit the amount of information that you share directly. Last sector I want to talk about is the iron and steel sector. Of course, also difficult to support, but the situation is different in different countries. Because as we know, there was a technical revolution, let's say, in this sector. So the computerization of the sector enabled many changes also in energy efficiency. And after the sector came through this process, much smaller amounts of savings were achieved. So there are many big changes possible, but in many times they're already implemented. So we have to search for some new technologies, for some new process-related technologies that will allow the energy efficiency to raise, because the schemes that worked and didn't support the innovative technologies didn't achieve such well results, because the common measures do not apply as good as in other sectors. Also, the sector is dominated by large enterprises, so we have to focus on those to achieve the best results. Okay, the general conclusions after analyzing and all that we've done through this analysis, we arrived at the first concerning the verification process, because you can't justify the policy or evaluate the policy if you can't just implement once and then leave it like this. You have to monitor and adjust the goals of the schemes as you go, because the situation changes, the technology changes, so you have to be, if you implement a policy, you can't just leave it like this. You have to monitor it and then adjust on yearly basis, or on some defined amount of time, but you have to do it to achieve the best results. Also, the knowledge is very important. If you share the knowledge, because many of the main schemes in many countries do not have the part of the knowledge sharing, it's important because you can easily achieve the very high savings in common measures that are intersectoral and can be with relatively low cost. You can achieve very high savings. You have to, in many times, you have to give the possibility to small and medium enterprises because for them it's very hard to participate in many schemes because of the bureaucracy, because of the energy managers that are not there usually in many small companies. So you have to make it really easy and somehow support them to achieve great results. And the last but not least is the data gathering and presenting to the public, because many times the confidentiality is the problem for the proper monitoring and analyzing of the schemes. So even for us, we had different approaches in the foreign neighbors countries to collecting and to also to showing data. So we have to make a great work to somehow make it coherent and to comparable between 4 countries. And this is only the 4 countries that we analyzed. But of course, if we gather and present the available data, it will also go well for other countries. Of course, and with data gathering, you of course have to remember that it's very important to collect it from the beginning of the scheme. So you have to, when you set the scheme, you have to also create the data gathering mechanism. That is all from me. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I would gladly answer them.